Hi, this is your Swapnil Bhartiya, and we are here at Cisco Live. And today we have with us Joe Vaccaro, SVP and GM of Cisco Network Platform at Cisco. Of course, Joe, it's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, we are going to talk about agentic ops. These days, of course, agentic AI is a big topic. I want to hear from you before we talk about, agentic ops. What announcement that you folks made here?
Yeah, so it starts with Cisco Cloud Control, right, as the one place for customers to be able to go and experience both networking, observability, security, and everything that they need to be able to power their IT infrastructure. Within networking, we announced our Cisco Agentic Actions, providing a way for our customers to be able to sense, reason, and act, fully autonomously, and new enhancements around that agentic loop.
Now, if you look at agents, they are working 24/7. They're always working in the background. Sometimes we don't even know what they are doing. And sometimes nowadays, they are not just assistants. They are not just telling us what to do. They are executing things also. So can you also talk about what they're actually doing in behind, and how does that concern Cisco, its customers, and what technology you are building for that visibility? Because you folks sit where everybody would like to sit, because at the juncture of the network, nothing passes without Cisco knowing about it.
Yeah. So the key thing, right, is that we should think about these agents as really digital teammates working alongside our operations teams. Now, what do they need to do? Well, they need to help us to solve problems. How do you solve a problem? First is by understanding what is happening across a system. In doing that both ambiently, so it's understanding on a continuous basis, what is the experience that our users are facing from every location around the world. And then they need to be able to diagnose. And what's key here is how can they be able to have the same level of knowledge of what's happening across the connectivity that a CCIE level engineer would have, right? So we've distilled down the capabilities within our deep reasoning based upon the 4 decades that Cisco's had to be able to solve the most complex problems and run the most critical networks. Now, once the agents have been able to work ambiently to identify a problem and to be able to diagnose it, then they can be able to propose how do they solve it, right? And this is where they can work together with the human operators, be able to participate in what we refer to this as that agentic loop.
Interesting thing with agents is that I've heavily into AI, who is not these days, and firsthand I've experienced, they're wrong most of the time. Now, how do you also stop agents from being wrong with confidence? Because sometimes they'll say, hey, because you don't want to kill them, it will, disrupt a lot of it. But at the same time, you don't want to kill the trust that is there in the system as well.
That's great. Yeah, trust is such an important word, right? So if you think about the hallucination, right? Anybody can take an LLM, wrap around UI around it, but the risk is what you just mentioned, the hallucination that can happen in your production, right? An agent that confidently says that you have a loop that's been introduced in your network, but actually there is no loop. But by fixing the issue, you're going to actually cause more issues. And so trust is such a key word. How we do that is by, first off, is showing the work. How did the agent get to the conclusion, and what is the evidence chain that got us to that point where it drew that conclusion, that root cause? Then, when you think about trust isn't just do you sense the environment and can you diagnose an issue, but trust in terms of how are you going to execute the fix, right? Agents are by nature probabilistic systems. So how do you add a level of determinism into the path of resolution? Well, at Cisco, we can drive the level of determinism using Cisco workflows, which provide a workflow generated way to be able to actually drive the change back into it. And key, all of this is governable, auditable, explainable. And as you do that, this is what helps customers be able to increase the level of trust. The last thing I'll say is that not every issue is going to have the same level of trust. A simple issue such as a VLAN mismatch could be a simple fix. But if a more complicated fix or complicated issue occurs, you might want to have the agent stop at the diagnosis. Give me the background information. Give me what you know. Then let the human take it from there. So every different event is going to have a different level of how you need to drive through that agentic loop. That agentic loop of sensing, diagnosing, remediating the problem, validating it, and ultimately deploying. Now, one last thing I want to talk about in terms of being trusted. Here at Cisco Live, we announced our Cisco Digital Twin. That digital twin gives a new level of how you build trust into the system. So before you propose a change on your network, can you be able to emulate your network and then drive that through a simulated environment? but run through a set of test cases and understand, is that change that I'm proposing on my network going to have a unintended consequence? That's a key thing, because what statistics show is that most degradations are human caused. Human caused in the sense of a misconfiguration that had an unintended consequence. So all these things working together, the ability to have rich cross-domain telemetry, to be able to sense issues and to be able to surface them up ambiently, the deep reasoning powered by the Cisco Deep Network Model and 40 years of seeing and solving problems, the ability to drive a level of safe changes through Cisco workflows to drive deterministic execution, all validated through the Cisco digital twin. All these things work together to help drive that level of trust.
When it comes to agentic ops, it also gives operators, they can see, they can approve, they can audit every action that agent is doing. Talk a bit about agentic ops and how pervasive it is becoming, or it should become within organizations, so they have this visibility that they need to know what agents are doing.
Yeah. So why is agentic ops really matters in the first place, right? It's that predictability as we know it is gone. Right, as network engineers, we always strive for control, to be able to control over our traffic patterns, control over connectivity, control over the change windows that we need. But as we see within this new agentic era, that level of control is fundamentally gone. Right, the pace of change is rapidly increasing. What's at stake about what delivers a great digital experience is getting more and more complex. So the only way to do that is to address the scale problem. And that's where the agents come in. And what differentiates AI ops from agentic ops is, are we able to leverage these agents as an extension of our operations teams? Do they become digital teammates that we can offload the repetitive, remedial, and tasks to? And this, when they're working together, allows us to be able to kind of regain that ability to deliver great experiences no matter where they are.
And at what point should customer, or when and how they decide what agent can do on their own versus what needs more human, either intervention or full, because human in loop is a very easy thing to do, but how much you should hand over to the agents, or where humans should be signing it off.
Trust is going to be earned. And so what we demonstrated at Cisco Live this week is, when we're surfacing new actions up within Cisco Cloud Control, they might start by saying, hey, here's the root cause, and here's the evidence chain that led us to that analysis. Now, the next step would be, hey, present that as a one-click resolution. But what's important is that when you solve that problem, we then append the not only the change, but how the system responded. Did it ultimately solve that problem to that same action? And then importantly, if you want us to then automate that, to run that same type of an action fully autonomously the next time we see it, that becomes then just a toggle. So you see this now as a graduation of confidence, a graduation of trust. And it's all based upon that providing level of explainability, that audit, the ability to calculate the confidence in the underlying assessments we've made, as well as the risk profile to the change. All these things work together to allow us to then move through it. And so addressing this kind of autonomous future is not a binary. It's not either non-autonomous or autonomous. You'll see this as more of a spectrum. And you'll see customers being able to increase the level of confidence over time.
What do you envision? At what point or how much autonomy will operators hand over to agents in coming years? Where you're like maybe 2 years? I think we should not put time frame, because what we have learned is technology evolves so fast. Yeah. Things will change so quickly by next month. So, but it's still, when do you see it's okay for operators to, agents become fully autonomous?
Yeah. Well, we're seeing, as we talked about, the connectivity become more and more complex. We're also seeing an increase in security threats that are driving us to be able to change our underlying network infrastructure faster than we've ever before, right? The time to exploitation in the last 5 years has gone from 10 months now to 10 hours. This is going to drive our customers to create more and more change within their network infrastructure. So every change can have an unintended consequence. And so the risk of not doing anything is now maybe greater than the risk of driving towards that autonomous future. And so when I talk to customers, we're seeing customers that are really leaning in to not only transforming the technology used, but transforming how the operations are done and how they're leveraging these new agentic capabilities to work alongside their human operations teams.
Is it possible for you to cite any use cases where customers have automated a lot of things, and you have seen. And let's not even get into security. I was talking to Amy yesterday because because of AI, agentic AI agents, new security threats are emerging that we cannot even envision today.
Yeah.
But if you can share any use cases, that would be great.
Today at Cisco Live, we heard from Cisco IT, who's transforming the way that they work. Right, Cisco IT runs a mission critical network over 300 sites globally, and they're leveraging these capabilities as ambient agents that are posting messages into a WebEx channel with their operations teams. And these ambient agents are surfacing up issues that then can be corroborated based upon their own backend data, right? Identifying not only new issues that they weren't aware of, but helping them to provide a deeper level of understanding of what's happening. Right, and the type of issues are wide-ranging because we know that there's many different ways that networks can fail today. And so, as Cisco IT and other customers, really excited about how our customers are leveraging these new capabilities to be able to really transform the way that their operations run.
One more question. When we look up, this is more on the AI side, the amount of data we are generating and the amount of data we are consuming, and plus getting access to, you can have the most powerful GPU, but if you don't have the highway or network for that, you cannot leverage the whole. How do you also see network evolving in this era of agentic AI?
To solve problems, you need to have shared context, right? If you only understand a wireless network, your agents are going to think everything is a wireless problem. And so this is where the power of Cisco Cloud Control comes together, right? When you're bringing to understanding a security policy, when you have the whole network intelligence, when you have the observability with Splunk, and the ability to then understand all the devices across your estate, you can build a shared context graph of understanding how things are connected. And so when you begin to investigate, you can draw the correlation of a security policy change that was made on a firewall that ultimately disrupted the connectivity between, say, a branch and a cloud, or a increase in a database latency that caused a network to get congested. Having that shared context becomes so critical to how our customers are able to then leverage these new agentic systems. You have to be able to see things, truly understand, to have the confidence to be able to drive these changes.
Earlier you talked about digital twin and thousand eyes. Are those more for Cisco's own, or customers should also practice something like similar? We talked about the Ada Cruz, they are doing something, but so that they should not be testing everything in production, though sometimes they're running mission critical workloads as well.
So the Cisco Digital Twin is going to be built organically inside of Cisco Cloud Control. And so as you're looking to, say, introduce a new device onto your network, you're looking to make a change to how the network policy is configured, the Digital Twin allow you to be able to take a snapshot of your production network and then emulate that directly inside of that Digital Twin, which will allow you to then understand and propose a change and allow the Digital Twin to then simulate what will the connectivity be. The Digital Twin is going to be so exciting. We're bringing this out first with our Cisco devices, but there's nothing to stop us for how we think about the problem in the future.
Joe, once again, thank you so much for, of course, joining me and talk about how, of course, agents network is evolving. Once again, thank you for your time, and I look forward to chatting with you again.
I appreciate it. Can't wait.
Thank you.
Take care.